All right. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. Thanks for joining today's Bett Asia session. My name is Craig Kemp, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. For the next hour, you have to put up with my Kiwi accent and hopefully learn a little bit about EdTech and how it can help you in your classroom. Let's get into it. Thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to have you here. Please share on Facebook Live as well. Share that out to your colleagues, friends, families, and let's get a whole group of people in here learning and growing together. Please comment, ask questions, do that in the Facebook Live feed. I'll be checking the feed from time to time in the comments section, and I'll be able to go back and answer those questions at the end. We'll have a little bit of time at the end where I can answer your questions, so please do leave your questions in the Facebook Live comments section, and don't hesitate to please let me know where you are right now, where you're from, where you're listening to this from, and let's get going. So today we're going to talk about the changing face of education. We're in this world where things have changed so much, thanks to COVID, but thanks to technology in general, moving, adapting, and changing. And as an EdTech specialist myself, I love to be able to share and help others grow and be successful in what they do. So I always start with this. This is my family, my inspiration, why I do what I do. And I'll tell you a little bit about my career journey shortly as well, to give a bit of context as to why I'm here and why I'm speaking to you. But in the photo, you can see my beautiful wife, Nicola. We moved to Singapore almost 9 years ago now. You can also see my little 2-year-old, Chloe, super cheeky but super fun, loves the outdoors, loves running around. And then my 6-year-old, Ella, who our first little baby girl, and she is into arts and loves being crafty and staying inside as much as possible to do as much arts and crafts as she can. So that's my family. That's why I do what I do. And it's really important to start with that context as well. This is a little bit about me. So as you can tell by my super thick New Zealand accent, it's been 9 years since my wife and I left New Zealand to live here in Singapore. And when we moved here, we came here to travel, but we came here for new opportunities, to learn, to grow, to expand our horizons, and to try new things. And over that time, we've been able to travel to almost 20 new countries and explored cultures that we never thought we'd have the opportunity to do so. So it's been a fantastic journey. Of course, that's been hindered a little bit by COVID, but we take the best that we can and we move forward with that. I'm super passionate about sport. I love trying new things. I love traveling. My role when I moved over here, I've been teaching for almost 16 years now, and teaching and leadership. Now as a consultant, I moved over to Singapore, having taught grades 2 to 10. Now I've had experience teaching everywhere from grades 2 up to grade 11, and it's an absolute pleasure in private and public schools. My last role was an EdTech director at Stanford American International School here in Singapore, where I supported the growth and development of educational technology to support authentic and purposeful integration into the classroom. And I did that for 5 years before June last year, where I left that role and moved into full-time consultancy. Being able to lead, learn, grow, and adapt has been amazing. And I've thoroughly been enjoying that. And I get the opportunity now not to just work within the bubble of my school like I was doing at my previous schools, but now being able to work across multiple schools, being able to support multiple people to achieve success. And not only that, but working with EdTech companies as well to support them in the growth and developments of their product. So by the time they get to you, they are a far superior product that can actually solve your problems. Right, let's get into it. So COVID-19 obviously struck us. Nothing we can do about it. We can talk about it all we want, but I wanted to talk about, the current state of EdTech thanks to COVID-19. And then let's look at how we can move forward from there, grow, develop, and actually start using technology more authentically and purposefully in our classrooms. So, thanks to COVID-19, we had no choice. We got thrown in the deep end, and we've had to adapt to change. And that hasn't been a bad thing, actually. We've been able to jump in and just do it. And sometimes, I speak and work with a lot of startup companies, EdTech startup companies, and, they can overanalyze things as much as they want. But until you get out there and talk to teachers and kids and parents and actually throw your product at them, that's the best test. You can't get any better than that. So although it's been a struggle and been thrown in the deep end, it's actually been pretty good how we've adapted and changed to that. School numbers are changing. Private schools in particular have seen a big decrease in those numbers, which does affect teachers' jobs. And of course, we all have different opinions on this remote learning. But one of the things that I love about the remote learning has been that parents' mindsets have changed. For so long as a teacher, myself, and I know you included, have fought this ideal that teachers work 9 till 3 and have amazing school holidays, right? And, that's not true. And for the first time, I think, ever, parents now realize how hard it is to be a parent and to teach, at the same time with their kids in remote learning. So that's been a game changer. Budgets dropping, priorities have adapted, but with that has mean that we've been able to change the way we do things. And in particular, we've been able to change and adapt the way we do professional learning. Like now, you're sitting here somewhere around the world. It's 8 p.m. here in Singapore. That's why you can see the glow of the lights on me. It's pitch black outside. But you're sitting in Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, in the UK, in the US, wherever you are, you're here to learn and grow. This is the new way of professional learning. And yeah, I've heard from people all the time, I'm webinared out. Pick and choose the best learning for you. It's context specific, and it means that you can do the job that you want to do when you want to do it. Now, we're in this middle of this disruption phase. It's the new normal, people refer to it to. But what does that actually mean? What does that look like? And it's hard to define that without knowing your context and without knowing your why for using technology. And I'm going to be asking you that in a moment. So make sure you have a pen and paper or some sort of note-taking device or a tab open on your device right now so you can take some notes and write down some comments shortly, because that's going to be an important part of defining what we do. We've had EdTech companies offering us things for free and often too much, but that's provided us the opportunity to negotiate, to ask questions, to challenge, and to make sure that we pick and choose the right things for the right job. Because what we need coming out of this is a strategic plan to be sustainable. We don't want to throw technology at it. That's not going to help solve a problem. What is going to help solve the problem is that strategic planning to help change the way we do things, to help add value to learning, to help construct new ideals around the way we move forward. And the last thing I want to bring up that I think is really important, something I'm really passionate about, is equitable access to devices. Now, COVID has highlighted that we're not quite there yet. No matter where you are, I'm here in Singapore, and the Singapore government prior to COVID-19 announced that they would be rolling out in 2027 over the next 7 years, a device program, a one-to-one device program for secondary school learners. Now, thanks to COVID-19, it made the government stop and think, what an amazing investment over a long period of time. But they said, no, that's not good enough. Our kids are missing out on authentic learning opportunities, and that's no longer acceptable. So what they did is they said by the end of next year, 2021, every secondary school student will have a device. What an amazing change. Now, I hope more governments change, and I hope more governments adapt and move to make sure that kids have equitable access to devices. That's teachers as well, and parents. We need to make sure that we're connected and engaged to the resources we need to learn. And if you are interested in making that change, do it. Have a voice and make a movement so that we can actually move towards what this new normal is going to be. This graph here, I love it because it shows us the mindsets of people that we work with. The mindsets of schools and developers all over the world after COVID-19. I say after, but after means now. We're in the middle of this, but it's hopefully getting to a place soon where we're going to be moving forward, growing and adapting. But when you look at this, the red line shows that there's actually been a decrease in that mindset of adopting educational technology. And we see the biggest decrease in Oceania, New Zealand and Australia, which for some of us, myself included, is surprising. But what's not surprising to me is the reason why. The reason is really simple. Number one, they weren't planned. They weren't prepared for it. So they were thrown in the deep end. Number two, they threw technology at it, expecting it to make a difference. Number three is that they didn't strategize. They didn't professionally upskill their teachers, and they didn't have a plan in place for growth and development. Now, when you look at the Middle East, there's a huge increase there, very little decrease. There's been so many plans in place over the past few years in the Middle East to support growth and development, to support the next generation of learners. And that's a really exciting thing to see. And I hope that in Asia here, where I am, we can continue to move and change and adapt with that. But what, in my opinion, it takes is schools, districts, ministries of education to say, hey, we need help. Come and help us. And let the experts come in and do their best to help you move, grow, and adapt. Now, a lot of people say to me, Craig, the technology is too much. It's too stressful. And my answer is always with a question. And I always say, why? Why is it too stressful? What is it that's causing you stress? And 9 times out of 10, people say to me, it's the strategy. I mean, not directly, but they say, hey, it's because we didn't have a plan in place, or it's because we didn't know what we were doing and why we were doing it. So asking those sorts of questions is really important, and knowing where you need to go. Developing a strategic plan, doing an audit of the way things work, and growing and adapting that into your school's strategic plan to make sure that you're going to move successfully into the future. With tech companies offering so many solutions, when schools taking this up, it actually adds to the stress, because more doesn't actually mean better. I love the ideal of less is more, actually. It makes it so much easier to grow and adapt and change when you pick and choose a couple of things at a time. And I'm going to share with you a little later on a couple of my favorite tools that you might like to go away and use to help yourself learn and grow as well, and maybe share within your community. Because each of us are in a very unique context. My school was very different to what your school is. The other teachers listening here today, your schools are all different, no matter where you are in the world. And that's okay. But we have to make sure we know our context and we know our why before we adapt and change. So let's talk about people, because I'm a huge advocate for promoting people and making sure that people are in the forefront of our mind when we're adapting and when we're changing and when we're growing. So, over the past 5 or 6 months, Singapore being one of the first countries to go into lockdown, I've come across remotely 3 types of teachers in the work that I'm doing with schools all over the world. And this isn't specific to Asia or Australia. It's actually, I've been working with about 12 schools over the past 6 months. It's 12 countries, schools in 12 countries. And it's the same everywhere I work. And, the 3 teachers can be put into 3 distinct areas. Those that have thrived, those that have really adapted to this change and just gone for it, tried new things, tested things out, made some mistakes, but have just given it a go. Those that have survived, those that have barely hung on, probably a lot of us, and those that just gave up. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of people that just said, no, not for me, too much, too hard. This is the way I've always done things, is a common phrase, just like in this graphic here, If we can help you, let us help you. Don't give the I'm too busy excuse, or this is the way I've always done things. And I know, because you're here in your own time to do your own learning, that I'm preaching to the converted. But this is an important message for you to take back to your school and share with those people that need support. Because when we look at this graphic here, the diffusion of innovation model, I like to talk about, first and foremost, the 68% in the middle here, the majority of your school staff, 2/3 of your school will be here. The teachers, the people in your school will be ready to move, but they're going to need the innovators first, the people that are actually willing to take a risk. I call it the teacher next door model. If there's a teacher next door willing to try new things, then, I'm willing to do it as well. It doesn't have to be the EdTech guru at the front of the room always telling you what to do, just like I'm doing right now. It can be you. It can be your colleague. It could be a veteran teacher, a leader in your school. It could be a beginning teacher. It could be anyone. But listen, learn and grow. Open up classroom doors. Invest no time in your laggards, because you will give them 10% of your time and they will take away 90% of your energy. That's what they do. They say no to everything. They say, this is the way I've always done things. They try and push you in a way that is comfortable for them. They don't like uncomfortable situations. So leave those people, because they've got two choices. They've got choice one, which is jump on board and join the journey because technology is not going anywhere. Use it to help us grow. Or number two, get off and move on. Because if I was a leader of a school, I'd be looking very closely at the people in my building. I want people that want to learn. I want you. I want people that are willing to change, adapt, and grow with student learning at the forefront of their mind. People that are willing to make that change. And I really hope that more schools start to think about that as we move forward. So thinking about now, post-COVID, as we look to the future and we think positively, of course, about what's going to happen next, the first thing that I always say is know your why. And we're going to get to that in a moment. But while we're talking through this, I just want you to think about why you use technology in your context. It doesn't matter what your role is, whether you're in a school or not. What's your why? Why do you use technology? Is it for efficiency? Is it to engage learners? Is it to get data analytics to inform next steps in learning? Is it to, promote pedagogy and make sure that that's in the forefront of people's minds when they're producing and creating learning experiences? Have a think and start jotting some notes down. Because one of my challenges to you tomorrow is to go to your school or go to a colleague and say to them, this is why I use technology in my classroom. This is why we should use technology in your school. And I call it the elevator pitch. Why do you use technology? If you were going into an elevator or a lift and someone pushed the button and you were going up 6 flights and you're in the lift with them for maybe 30 seconds and they say to you, why do you use technology here? You should be able to tell them like that. Just like anything, what's your belief on well-being? You should be able to tell them just like that. The elevator pitch helps us understand and give clarity to why we do what we do. And it helps inform that strategy development that I've spoken about already. What we're doing here is trying to help you think about, as we get decreased budgets, how do we use technology and focus in on probably 3 the most important things. Think people, think systems, and think infrastructure. We've already spoken about access to technology, but let people help you. Invest time and energy in people. Creating these hybrid systems, these blended learning environments of face-to-face and online learning is the new normal. There's countries all around the world saying we will never teach in the same way we've taught before. Whether that's a reality or not, for your context, I don't know. But what I do know is that technology is changing so fast and it's helping us learn, adapt, and grow in so many ways that I cannot see it going away in the future. So it's our job to keep up to the best of our abilities to ensure that we're building capacity and we're growing and we're learning. We're creating these transparent workflows. I've put in here the SAMA model. Now, the SAMA model is probably one of my favorite models for understanding how and why you use technology. So let's take a look at it. We look at the SAMA model. SAMA model was created by a guy named Ruben Putendera. You can look it up in one of your other tabs while you're watching this. But the SAMA model is often referred to as a ladder. But Ruben often says, no, it's not a ladder. Think of it as a framework or a guide to help you be more effective and authentic about the way you use technology. A good example for substitution, for example, is, I have a textbook that I use for my math class, but I'm actually going to change that to an ebook. All that is a substitution. It's not enhancing learning. It's not redefining learning. It's not changing the learning experience. All it's doing is changing it mildly, this tiny little minuscule amount. Maybe it's just bringing everything into one place. That could be the goal. But what we're trying to do here is actually look at learning experiences and go, right, how can I change this to be better than it was before? How can I use technology to help me do something that I couldn't do before? How can I use technology to enhance learning so that it's different than I have ever thought of before? Modification and redefinition is the goal here. Creating learning experiences that change the way we do things. Think about that next time you go into a team meeting and do some planning of your own. It's not about adding technology for the sake of technology. In fact, I would advocate for not using technology if that's your approach. If you can't dramatically change the learning experience and add value to it with technology, then don't use it at all. Some of the best learning experiences I've seen in my experience with schools is actually with no technology. Teachers should always think learning first, technology second. It's the pedagogy, it's the learning experience that should drive what we do. I'd encourage you to go away and take another look at the SAMR model as well. Keep it open and explore a little bit about this and bring it into your next team meeting. One of the things that we focused on when I was at STAMFORD was adapting and changing and creating our model to be a creation-based model, helping our kids make and create rather than just consuming. And so what we did, and I'm going to show you two examples here, one for our lower elementary and one for our upper elementary. This was created by Adam Torrens, and you can see his link in the bottom there, so you can follow him on Twitter. We worked together with the lower elementary teachers and the students to create this core app list. 12 apps that we valued, the apps that were creation-based, that allowed our students to create and experience learning in ways that were never possible before. And we made sure that the learning experiences that we gave them were dedicated to this. So we taught every teacher how to use these. We helped them integrate them into their planning as coaches. And we helped students learn how to use them. Teaching students to use this, easy. Teaching teachers how to use this, hard. Do your best one at a time and try something new. So as a teacher here or a leader here, whatever you are and whatever your context is, don't take all of this away. Take one thing, maybe two. I'm going to share some more tools later on, but don't take it all. Start small and think big. If you are a teacher of 8 to 12-year-olds, these were our core group of 15 apps for our upper elementary students. As you go into middle school, we said to our teachers, we need to prepare them for a very different learning model. Learning as a primary trained educator myself, who went into middle school design teaching and leadership, it's a different world. Teaching and leading in a middle school is very different to teaching and leading in a primary school. And being able to give our students an advantage, an efficiency advantage, to be able to use these tools to help add value to their learning is one of our core goals. So the skills that we can teach them, whether it's coding with hopscotch and tinker, creating green screen videos, using Padlet, using Google Docs. If you're on Microsoft, it's using Teams and using other bits and pieces that might help create that learning experience that we all need and that we all value. So thinking about that now, let's think about positivity when it comes to learning, because being positive, I think, is one of the most important parts here. That mindset where I'm willing to give it a go. As a positive technology user, we make and we create. We try new things and we take risks. We tell our kids to take risks and try new things all the time, but we very rarely expect that of ourselves and of our colleagues. I was in a school in Malaysia doing some work recently, and the principal said to his staff, give it a go. I don't care if you make a mistake, if you make a fool of yourself, if it doesn't work. All I want to see is that you're giving it a go. And that's the mindset that we need more of. This change mindset doesn't mean you have to be perfect straight away, that you have to be an EdTech guru. Give it a go. Start small, ask for help, seek out learning where you can. Connect and engage your learners. I'm going to share some tools for that later on. There are so many good, safe tools to do that. Think positive about the interactions you provide your learners as well. Actively teach digital citizenship, but not just citizenship, but digital well-being. A colleague of mine, Heather Bernard, said to me today, actually, in a message, that she's doing some online learning about not just teaching digital citizenship, but integrating authentic digital well-being into every student's life. It's not just that one and done lesson. It's being thoughtful about how that's integrated, and not just our kids and our teachers, but our parents too, because we can't grow and develop anymore. Learning doesn't stop at the school gates. It continues, and we need parents to join this journey with us. It's a critical part as we move forward. One of the positive contributions I've made throughout COVID has actually been creating this podcast of my own. And this podcast is called the EdTech Chat Podcast. The EdTech Chat can be found in any podcast channel that you have. Spotify, it can be found on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Search for the EdTech Chat Podcast. You can see the link in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And the link is linktree/Mr. Kemp NZ, and it will take you to my podcast. Every Friday morning, I drop a new episode, Singapore time, and it gives you a 30-minute free piece of advice, tips, advice, a chat with an EdTech expert that I admire and I look up to, a new tool to try out and think about in your classroom. And I give away prizes as a thank you for listening and subscribing. So check it out and have a listen. You've only got 22 episodes to catch up to, so about 12 hours of Kiwi accent in your ears. But if you're on school holidays or you travel to school, you go for walks, maybe it's something that'll help you learn, grow, and develop as well. And hopefully it won't be too annoying. But as we think about that, and I've said learn and grow and develop quite a lot, but the piece that Alvin Toffler talks about, he says the illiterate of the 21st century are not going to be those that can read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that is critical. Make mistakes, try new things, but learn from it. Forget the things you used to do. This is the way I've always done things is no longer acceptable language in any school. Call people out on it. Make sure that as learners and leaders, we are embracing change and we're trying to move forward together. In December of 2018, the World Economic Forum released their Future of Jobs report, a 300-page document to help us learn and grow. I've taken half of a page and I've put it here for you because this is the most important in my opinion. The 2022 Skills Outlook. In 2022, what are the 10 most important growing skills that learners need to be successful in the world that they're going to live in? This changes so fast, and I'm expecting a new release from the World Economic Forum in December of this year, and that's going to be increasingly different, I think, thanks to COVID. But the skills we look at here are skills we should be actively teaching, actively and explicitly teaching our kids of any age how to be analytical thinkers, be innovative, creative, original, how to be programmers, how to think like a coder, how to be critical thinkers, problem solvers, how to ideate. All of these things are critical in the success of what we want these kids to be able to do in the future, because we always say it, but the world is going to be very different for these kids. We can't teach for what our future was or what the present is. We have to be thinking about what the next new learnings and innovations are going to be. They're going to help our kids have a unique advantage in the world that they're going to learn, lead, and grow in. And just going to take a little stop there to say thank you to those people that are already commenting on the Facebook live feed. Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate you jumping in and being here. Thank you, Rushdie. In Malaysia, teachers are already bogged down by a lot of other matters. I totally agree. I'm working with a couple of groups of schools in Malaysia, and I couldn't agree more. And unfortunately, hopefully this message gets to the Ministry of Education in Malaysia, because they need to change. They need to adapt, and they need to make sure that their people are the number one priority. And I've been working with some ministries of education to support that, one in Australia and a couple of others, one in the Middle East, to support them in growing and taking those next steps. So hopefully we can get that message to them, Rushdie, and support you in that growth and that development as well. And I'm going to pull up a couple of images here because I love them. They come from Apple Education. And this is what I think learning is all about with technology. Helping every learner be a creator. But they can't do that unless you as a teacher create these conditions to allow them to do that. You create the learning experience let them create and make. Seymour Papert says the role of the teacher is to create the conditions for invention rather than provide ready-made knowledge. And I think that's something that we need to think about as well as we think about our why. Just as Simon Sinek says, he says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I'm going to get you to do activity in a moment. And I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to expect you to be writing something down. Now, you can write this in the Facebook live feed. You can jot it on a bit of paper. You can put it anywhere. But I want you to write it down because I want you to be accountable. Okay, as we think about technology, we must think about why we use it. And Simon Sinek, in his book, Start With The Why, talks about how whenever we think about a situation, it doesn't have to be in education, it can be in life, but we always ask ourselves why, because that helps us inform the how, which ultimately helps us create those experiences, which is the what. So it's your turn now. You know, I've done enough talking. I need a drink of water and I want to have a break. What I want you to do for the next 60 seconds is write down your why for integrating technology in your classroom. You might not be a teacher, so think about how you use technology in your context. Are you a leader? Are you an EdTech company? How can you be successful with the use of technology? Now, if I was writing my why, I would probably write something about efficiency, probably write something about data analytics to help me inform decision-making or differentiate learning. I would probably write something about engagement of my learners and maybe something about helping save me time, because I know I use a lot of tools to help save me time. Jot that down now, share them on the Facebook live feed or tag me on social media at Mr. Kemp NZ on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll check it out later on. Or you can go to my Ignite EdTech Facebook page as well and leave there. I'm going to stop talking for 30 seconds, give you a chance to write some things down, and have a little drink. Right, so hopefully you've jotted down a few things in learning. Now, hopefully you've got some keywords there. Please do share, because I really do want to see that in there. But I want you to really think, I really want you to think about how to be successful, how to make sure that you change the way you do things with the use of technology in your classroom or school. So as I move on to this next part, please, please, please keep writing. Feel free to keep writing. I'm more than happy for you to keep jotting things down and keep sharing as well. I'll put some links there in the Facebook live feed. But without strategy and culture together, it's really hard for us to move forward. You know, a great place to start is understanding your why. And that's what you're writing down right now. And that's what I talk about in my podcast every week, helping you create a better understanding, because there's two things that can help us be successful in the bigger scheme of things in our schools or work environments. One is strategy, but the other one is culture. You know, I've talked a lot about strategy, but we can't get to strategy until we've got that culture. And culture doesn't mean positivity. Yeah, you're doing a great job. Culture means supporting each other, being willing to learn, grow, adapt, change. That's what it's all about, because culture eats strategy for breakfast. Without culture, we can't move forward. You know, and that's why a lot of schools change leadership, because it's not the right culture or the right fit to move forward and adapt and change. I always say culture first, strategy second. It's the most important thing. If you can't get your culture down packed, don't even come and knock on the door, because it's not worth helping you build and grow a strategy. Talk to your people, make sure that you're moving forward together. And of critical importance, forget about adding new technology if you're not thinking about your people. Human resources are the most important resources in your school. But until you've nailed that, you can't build a strategic plan. You know, as we think about the future in the next 12 to 18 months, post-COVID-19, and I want us to be positive about that, because it's really hard when you look in the media to see positivity sometimes. And I've just watched The Social Dilemma a couple of times in the last few days, and it's really hard to see the positive, but there is so much good out there. Think of the positives, These are my action points for you to take away and think about when you think about next steps in learning. Culture first, strategy second. Create that plan and ask for help. Talk to your people. Ask them during remote learning what worked and what didn't work. And most importantly, how can we be better? How can I help you? How can we get together to make this a better experience for everyone? One of the things that I always encourage schools to do is form committees of passionate people. Bring people together who are willing to build a community of culture building EdTech, and ask for help. People like me are everywhere around the world to be able to help give you advice and support, because the priorities should be professional learning and building capacity in your people. At a time when we have limited budget to spend on new things and new learning, invest time in yourself. Identify the problem areas and reach out to EdTech companies, and more importantly, know your why before you move on. Now, a couple of things I wanted to move into before I share a couple of EdTech tools. Number one, screen time. Really quickly going to go over this because it's one of the things that I get asked all the time when I go into schools. Screen time, screen time, screen time. Always from parents and always worried about how much we give them to do on devices. Now, I'm pulling up this because I think it's the best source of information and research out there. There's lots of research on this at the moment, but this is my favorite from the American Academy of Pediatrics. And they say, actually, it's parent discretion. There is no evidence, no substantial evidence to show that screen time significantly impacts learning, negatively, and no significant impact for screen time and technology on social and emotional well-being. Very limited. I'm going to show you another study in a moment that helps highlight that. But they say that the most important thing is not how much time you spend on devices, but the quality of what's happening on those devices. So obviously, if you have someone less than 2 in your household, there shouldn't be technology. It shouldn't be used as a babysitting tool. It shouldn't be plonked in front of there, because there are studies that actually show for kids age 2 and below, technology or increased screen time can actually impact hearing and vision. So it's something to look into and do a bit of research on yourself. But what they do say is from the age of 6, it's up to you. You know your kids best as a parent. As a teacher, you know your kids best. Work together with your parents to make sure that there's the right amount of time. Now, this next study I want to show you is one of my favorites that I love to throw in the face to people when they challenge me about screen time. I haven't done this study, but so many other people around the world are doing this. But this is one of my favorites. Just 0.4% of well-being is attributed to the use of technology. So when Oxford University examined data for more than 300,000 adolescents in the US and the UK. 300,000, so it's not a small sample size here. They found that eating potatoes has just as much impact on teenage mental health as using phones, tablets, and laptops. Eating potatoes. So when next time someone comes to you and says screen time this, screen time that, maybe in the future there's going to be something that comes out of it. But right now, the cutting edge studies actually show that only 0.4% of adolescent well-being can be associated with technology use. So that's looking at things like teenage suicide rates, self-harm, the sorts of things that were spoken about in the documentary, The Social Dilemma, and they actually refer to some of this as well in that documentary. So I encourage you to go and take a look at it. We created these do's and don'ts for when sharing on social media, and I'm going to skip over it pretty quickly. If you want to see this, I'm more than happy to share it with you. Just reach out to me, email me, connect with me on social media. I'll be more than happy to share it with you. But let's get into some tools, because I've got 20 minutes left and I want to spend some time sharing with you some of my favorite tools that create positive EdTech learning experiences. Now, not all of these are going to be suitable for you. Some of them will be, and I hope some of them will be. And I'll share the links as well in the Facebook live chat for those that are interested as we go. The first tool is the Microsoft Education Portal. Now, the Microsoft Education Portal is one of my favorites because it's packed full of resources that can help you in connecting and engaging your learners. If you go to education.microsoft.com, you'll be able to find everything you need for free to help you connect, engage, and grow. You don't have to be a Microsoft school to be able to take advantage of this. There are lots of great opportunities for learning. And in there again is Skype in the Classroom. And go into Skype in the Classroom, you can find all of these different ways to connect and engage and collaborate with people from all over the world. And it's free. Why not give it a go? When there's a resource as good as this, already done for you, don't reinvent the wheel, give it a go. The second favorite tool for me is Empatico. And I'll add this link in there as well, empatico.org. Empatico is one of my favorites because it's a way of connecting and engaging on an empathetical base, teaching empathy and kindness at the same time as connecting and collaborating with people from all over the world. And in this photo, and I'm going to put the link in here now, empatico.org. Now, in this photo, you will see on the left, Gustav Heino. He is a grade 3 teacher at my old school. In the middle, you see Oluwasian. Oluwasian is a grade 3 teacher in Nigeria. A little bit of difference between what they teach. Gustav has 24 kids. Oluwasian has 100. And on the right is Michelle in the US. And they all teach grade 3, and they all for 6 months connected, collaborated, and engaged in learning experiences using Empatico. I can't promote Empatico enough for this. It's free. Unbelievable how good it is, but it's free. Go to empatico.org and sign up for free to connect your kids to the world. Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is, again, one of my favorites. Edpuzzle is a tool that allows you to engage your learners in video content. Edpuzzle is a tool to create your own video content. You can take videos from YouTube, Vimeo, any video content platform, even your own videos, and it actually allows you to take that and create your own video. So what you can do is take your video, voice over in a different language, mute, add questions, it'll stop, and it will make them answer a question prior to moving on. So it allows you to customize the learning experience a little bit more. It's actually free for the first few videos you create, and then there's a paid subscription after that. I've never paid. I've always just used the free version, and it's amazing, especially with content that you use for multiple classroom grade levels you use year on year. It's worthwhile creating so that you can reuse that and engage students in learning. The next one is Google Expeditions, and I'm going to get over that pretty quick because I want to share to the next tools as well. But Google Expeditions is a free app that you download to engage your students in virtual reality learning, particularly. Okay, one more tool. Let's keep going. The next one is Google Tour Creator. Google Tour Creator actually allows you to create free 360-degree tours. So if you're teaching geography, mathematics, you can go to anywhere in Google Maps and map together different 360-degree views and create your own virtual tour of something. You create your own virtual tour of your school, your classroom, a field trip, anything you want to engage students in learning. Check it out. It is free and it's worthwhile exploring. The next tool is Hologo World. Hologo is one of my new favorites, actually. And I love it because not only are they, I think, the world leader in engaging students in AR technology, but they have this library of lessons of more than 300 that support teachers in teaching and integrating science, maths, geography, and so much more. But it actually allows you to create AR experiences for anything you want. And they're actually looking for co-creation opportunities right now. So if you're thinking that maybe this is something for you, email me and I can connect you to their CEO, or go to hologo.world. I've put the link in the Facebook live chat, and you can jump on there and you can actually ask them or join up for free and see if you can be involved in co-creation. It's a pretty cool opportunity to be involved in the next futuristic thing that's going to help engage students in learning. They've actually got amazing data that shows the engagement levels of students over a 6-month to 12-month period, and that using Hologo helped them improve their results significantly over time. The next one is Education Perfect. Now, Education Perfect is, again, one of my favorites, particularly good for people who teach. I'm going to say, so if you teach tenure, Education Perfect is an amazing way to engage your learners in learning content. Now, content that you can use to help, and actually helps you connect and engage across subject areas and curriculum areas from all over the world, whether it's IB, IPC, IGCSE, Australian National Curriculum, New Zealand National Curriculum, the list goes on. There are subject-specific content, thousands of lessons for English, maths, science, humanities, health and PE, digital technology, and languages, including Spanish, Italian, Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, the list goes on. So if you're a specialist teacher or a classroom teacher that wants content to support and engage students, use it. But there are two other amazing things that Education Perfect bring here. One, you can set assignments that bring kids in, they do the assessment or do the learning task, but then they automatically grade it. So the system can automatically grade it. It can then set next learning cycle without you having to do anything. So that if I got 60% in an assessment, for example, I can just go to about 90%, it's going to give me extension work. So the data analytics in the background are incredible. You can actually have this as forward-facing for parents as well to engage them in the learning experience. Check out Education Perfect wherever you are in the world. Again, I'm more than happy to do an introduction for you if you would like. My last tool is ClanBeat. ClanBeat is something that I'm new to, but it's all about wellness and well-being. Now, ClanBeat is a virtual teacher's lounge, but it's not just that. It's actually a student-facing learning experience as well. They're looking for people to co-create too. So go to clanbeat.com. If you're looking for something to support and promote student and teacher well-being in your school, talk to Kadri at ClanBeat, the founder. Let her know that I sent you my way. She's amazing and will be able to help you create an experience for people in your building to be able to help learn, grow, adapt, and develop. So thinking about those tools now, hopefully you've got one or two in your mind that you're going to go away after this and use to help yourself learn and grow. But let's think about bigger picture now. And I'm going through this pretty quickly, but I do want you to think about that bigger picture now. What does it mean for a school-wide vision? If you want to bring your school on board here, what can you do? Now, this is the vision from my old school. We created this with the help of teachers, students, and parents, and our leadership team. And we said our school-wide vision for EdTech is all about possessing a culture where everyone thrives in a constantly evolving landscape. We didn't mention the word technology because technology is just a tool. It's no different to paper or pens or pencils, right? It helps us do a job better, more effectively, or more efficiently. And in order to do that, and these are some of the things that I've done with schools all over the world. On the left is a school in Australia where we threw up some post-it notes. In the top middle there, it's with the schools I'm working with in Malaysia, rolling out a one-to-one device program. So putting teachers in front of teachers to empower learning. In the bottom there is a school I've worked with in Thailand. And the school has plastered their EdTech vision on the wall. And this is a group of teachers going through and looking at this newly developed vision that we created. Top right, working with teachers to design and create ways of thinking. And again, in the bottom right here is with a private school in Australia where we co-created a set of design principles for EdTech in their school. So it can take many ways, shapes, and forms, but often it has to be around building capacity. And you have to build capacity in yourself because people are not going to hand it to you on a silver platter. You have to stay relevant. We've talked about that a lot already. You have to seek opportunities to learn, just like you are right now. But more importantly, create opportunities for learning. Don't just wait for people to give it to you, but create own opportunities within your professional learning network as well. PLN, Professional Learning Networks. I choose to use Twitter. I'm connected with 44,000 people that help me learn, grow, change, and adapt every day. And I'm super thankful for them because that's my go-to learning environment. Yours doesn't have to be a social media. It can be the teachers at your school. It could be your neighbors, your friends, your colleagues, your leadership team, your teaching team. It doesn't have to be big. In the days where we were able to do physical conferences, I used to love meeting people face to face because we had so much in common and we could challenge each other. Create and share resources wherever you are. People often say, but I've got nothing good to share. There are thousands of people out there that think that. Share it, no matter where you are on your journey with educational technology, because it starts with you. Now, we're getting to the end here, so I'm going to encourage you before I do this. In 2 minutes, I'm going to go to the Facebook live feed, and I'd like for you to please post any questions. We're going to have about 5 or 6 minutes to be able to answer your questions. So please throw them in there. I'm happy to answer anything about what we've talked about or go into more depth about anything. We'll have about 5 or 6 minutes for questions. So start throwing them in the Facebook live feed now. No question is a silly question. But as we finish with all of this learning in mind, I want you to remember these things. Number one, we are the last generation to understand life before the internet. We're the last generation to understand life before a smartphone. The last generation to understand how to connect without using social media. The last generation to be fluent translators of what it was like before technology and now after technology. Now that's something to think about. And I'm guilty of this particularly. The last generation to wonder each morning, what should I do? Instead of picking up their phone and wondering what they missed by looking at notifications. This in particular has been brought to the forefront of my mind by watching The Social Dilemma. I encourage you to go away and watch that. It's an eye-opener and a game changer. But here's my big takeaway. Plan with the future in mind. Know your why. Hopefully you've jotted it down. Make sure you understand it. Make sure people in your building know that. Build a culture and stay ahead of the game, because the reality is if you don't do that, you will be left behind. And I know I'm preaching to the converted, but your job is to take this message, to take this learning, to take this video if you have to take my slides, do whatever you have to do, but help other people. Start with one person at a time and help other people learn and grow. Now, I'm going to leave this last slide here while I go to questions on the Facebook live feed. So please keep them going and put them up there. I can see lots of thumbs up. Hopefully you can see all my links in there as well. Please throw your questions in there and I'll do my best to answer them. But please stay in touch with me. This link linktr.ee/Mr. Kemp NZ, it'll take you to all of my social media channels, all the podcast channels. So if you're a bit lazy and can't be bothered searching for the EdTech Chat podcast, go there and it'll take you to whatever channel you prefer. It'll also take you to my website, igniteedtech.com, and you'll be able to see what I do, what services I offer, and how I support schools and EdTech companies move from surviving to thriving in the world that we live in. I also have a team of 9 amazing members that support all across the world and running professional learning, engaging teaching experiences, running EdTech audits, whatever it is, we're there to help. So I'm going to jump onto the Facebook live feed now. Keep your questions coming in. I'm going to go back to Rushdie. And Rushdie said, in Malaysia right now, teachers are already bogged down by a lot of matters, in particular paperwork. And I mentioned this briefly earlier on, Rushdie, but it's so important that we prioritize what we need right now, because prioritization is the most important thing. What is important for us now and in the future? How can we help people grow and adapt? How can we give teachers time back? Because efficiency is time is what every other person in the school is going to tell you is their number one priority. They will take time over money nearly every step of the way. So in my opinion, Rusty, I think it's all about making priorities, making sure that the EdTech team or the leadership team support you and know where you're coming from. It's about asking those questions and having sometimes those challenging conversations, critical conversations that can impact learning, critical conversations that help people move, adapt, and grow. So thinking about that now, I can't see any more questions coming up on the Facebook live feed, but let me just have one more look here before I sign off and let you go about your day, your morning, your evening, wherever you are, if you're watching this live or watching it back as a replay. Let me just do one more check. Doesn't look like it. So I'm going to stop there, let you get on today. I can't you our time with me today and investing your time and energy in me and trusting in me for your learning. If you need help or support, don't hesitate to reach out. I am here to help you learn and grow, to help your school learn and grow. I've put my link again in the Facebook live feed for you. So if you need any help, click through there and I will be there every step of the way to help you. Thank you so much. Signing out here from Singapore. I appreciate you very much. I will see you again soon. Make sure you connect and follow with me on social media. Ka kite anō. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.